We're about news, commentary, conversations, truth, liberty, and God. We stand for American values and our flag. We believe that the Constitution is a document that fortifies rights already given to us by our Creator. We will not apologize for our love of God and country, ever. We are Right America Media.
They keep saying interdimensional, and then when you talk about the interdimensional aspect of, are these things pre-existing, maybe outside of what we currently know as our own dimension, there's definitely something that I can tell you with confidence that exists that we don't know how to explain currently. I think that they can actually operate through the time spaces that we currently have. This gets into the deeper theories and concepts of religion, but what I can tell you is based on the photos that I've seen, I'm very confident that there's things out there that have not been created by mankind.
Are demons interdimensional aliens? I'm not so sure, but I'm going to give you my conclusion, and you might be surprised that it's definitely possible. I'm Pastor Josh Barnes. This is Point of View, and today I'm probably next week, and maybe even the next week after that, we are going to be responding to the Anna Paulina interview with Joe Rogan. Anna Paulina Luna. 3 names for one person. That just seems like a lot of names. Anyway, she was on Joe Rogan recently. I don't know if you missed this or caught it or not, but and she was interviewed about, Joe Rogan was asking her about the Bible and about demons and aliens and the Book of Enoch and the Ark of the Covenant. And I listened to the whole thing and I'm screaming inside saying, I need to talk about this. So today on the Scriptura show, we're going to be diving into this. Thanks for joining us on POV Scriptura. This is where we take everything and look at it from the point of view of the Scriptures. And we do some episodes where we defend that concept, where we show that the Scriptures are the grounding for truth. But once we establish that concept, then it's important to then take the issues that we encounter in our scrolling through social media and say, wait a minute, let's slow down. Let's think about this. Let's think about this carefully and see if this is true, biblically speaking. And sometimes, you just need to keep calm and consult a theologian. So here I am. I'm here to help, and no sweat. I'm here to make everything understandable, or at least that's the goal. All right, so we're going to get into the question today. The question for today is the kind of the beginning of the Anna Paulina Luna episode with Joe Rogan, where they begin by talking about aliens. And before they talk about it a little bit, but they end up doing more talking about whether the Book of Enoch belongs in the Bible or not, which we'll talk about in our next episode. And that might be a two-parter. I really think there's going to be a lot to say, so it'll probably turn into a two-parter. I haven't recorded that one yet as of the recording of this episode, so we'll see. But let's talk about this. Are demons actually interdimensional aliens? In other words, when people believe that they have seen aliens, have they really seen demons that are able to, that are beings that God created to be interdimensional? They're able to go from one dimension to another. This sounds a little crazy, but I wanted to do this one first because they talk about it first in the interview. And this is where I actually kind of am going to agree that this is a fair possibility with Anna Paulina Luna. I'm going to disagree a lot in the next one about whether the Book of Enoch should be in the Bible. I'm going to disagree a lot, and I'm going to show why and give you the evidence and the reasoning for that. But we'll talk about that later. For now, let's talk about the physical aspect of demons. What are they able to do? Let me give you an idea by showing you. Now, I am not a physicist, okay? I am not. I am a theologian. I study the Bible. That's what I do. One could even say that I'm a professional theologian because I am. It is my profession, theology. So that is what I do. So don't get too bent out of shape about it. I want to show you this though. This I think is how it's been explained to me, and I feel like it makes sense. Let me pull it up on your screen. This is a picture of a Pac-Man game. And this gives you an idea of what we mean when we say our demons interdimensional. What we mean, well, okay, so different people might have different meanings, but essentially how it's been explained to me as one possibility is you could have demons that are fourth dimensional. So we live in a three-dimensional space. Okay, we have up, down, sideways, backwards, 3 dimensions, right? You have length, width, and height. But our 3 dimensions would be very strange to to Pac-Man. Pac-Man lives in 2 dimensions. Here you can see it on the screen here. Pac-Man, he has to go around the walls. He can't. The idea of climbing a wall is insane to Pac-Man. It doesn't make any sense because he lives in a 2-dimensional world. Everything is 2 dimensions. He has sideways, you just have to travel around them. You can go up and down, but all in that same dimension. You can't go over something. You can't climb a wall. Now we look at this and we think, man, those walls are extremely thin. There's no size to them at all. You just step over the wall, Pac-Man. But he can't do that. He is flat. He's in a 2-dimensional space. That's the idea. That helps you represent it in your mind. If I were to put my finger down on a Pac-Man board, and if Pac-Man were real, right? Pac-Man would see just the part of my finger that interacts with his 2-dimensional world. He would not see any of the height of it. He'd just see the part that interacts with his plane, his 2-dimensional plane. And which explains to you how to Pac-Man it would look like my finger just appeared out of nowhere. That little piece, the part that touches his plane. The rest of it he wouldn't see because he only sees in 2 dimensions. And the way that it's been explained to me by smart people, much smarter than I, is that this possibly could be the case with demons. They could potentially be 4-dimensional, where we have 3. We have length, width, and height. They might have another dimension. And so when they pass through our dimension, it might look like they're appearing or disappearing or something like that. But it might just be that they are 4-dimensional or even multi-dimensional beings. That's the theory. We're going to analyze that to see if that's true. Let me play for you this clip from the interview with Anna Paulina Luna on Joe Rogan, just to get us started to see what they say.
I was actually able to ask some of the witnesses, what are these things?
Just to get us started to see what they say, so that we can analyze it. I've got it here up on the screen. Let me cue it up here from the beginning. I'll probably stop it here every now and then. But let's get it started. See what they're saying.
I was actually able to ask some of the witnesses, what are these things? And they keep saying interdimensional. And then when you talk about the interdimensional aspect of, are these things pre-existing, maybe outside of what we currently know as our own dimension?
Okay, so Anna Paulina Luna here is talking about interviewing. She is on several committees for the U.S. House. She's a U.S. House representative from Florida, and she has interviewed people who've seen, things in Roswell and all this kind of stuff, investigated things. And there's things she can't say, but they're going into like government documents and government stuff and trying to be transparent about it as much as possible. And she's saying that from the testimonies and from the people that she's interviewed, they are saying these are interdimensional, these aliens that we've seen, the things that everyone, Area 51, all that kind of stuff. It's interdimensional. That's what she's saying the witnesses were saying to her.
That stuff can kind of all sound crazy, but at the end of the day, my job as an investigator is to receive all the information, decipher it, and then ultimately from a congressional aspect, if you do have contractors that are withholding information or operating outside of the purview of the federal government, I mean, there's budgetary issues, but there's definitely something that I can tell you with confidence that exists that we don't know how to explain currently.
So there's definitely things that exist that we don't know how to explain currently. Now, I'm not sure how much I could trust Anna Polina Luna because she's obviously not very well researched on the Bible, and she's going to talk a lot about the Bible in this interview. So I want to just kind of couch everything I say in that. But what she's saying does sound correct to me, that she's saying there's things we can't explain currently that we are finding out. That would make sense. Since as Christians, we do believe that there are such things as demons. Now, we'll talk more about that in a minute. I'll pull up some scriptures. We'll go to the book of Daniel especially, that gives us some really interesting information about this. But for now, let her continue. This is the conversation between her and Joe.
So when you say that it operates outside our understanding of physics, what specifically are you saying? Like what happened?
To I guess break it down in simple terms is that I think that some of the tech that exists, that whatever these things have, these energy things have.
Energy things? What do you mean?
Well, they call them interdimensional beings. I think that they can actually operate through the time spaces that we currently have.
So they can operate through the time-space continuum. See, just to be fair, she is not a scientist. She is saying this is how it was described to me by people who I think do know, who I think are scientific and all that kind of stuff. So she's relaying what she understands about how it's been expressed to her. And her understanding is time, space, continuum, interdimensions, that kind of stuff. I feel like she's saying it very confidently, as if she does know what she's talking about. But she and I both know that the two of us, we don't understand this really from a from a physicist, scientist perspective. We can only kind of simplify it like a Pac-Man game. We can think about it simply, but when it gets deep, we really don't know what we're talking about. So she's going to say things like, "Oh, it's interdimensional," and then when Rogan pushes her, she's going to say things like, "Well, that's I can't tell you any more than that. It's all very secret." But it's like, well, she just can't explain it because she's not a scientist. But these are the things she's saying she's being told by witnesses. So that's interesting. That is certainly very interesting.
And that's not something that I came up with on my own. That's based on stuff that we've seen. That's based on information that we've been told. And then also, too, I think that there's this historical aspect of, this gets into the deeper theories and concepts of religion. And I think the history that we currently know. And that kind of spins off into another topic of, you have the modern day Bible, you have this aspect of Bibles or books of the Bible that have been removed that explain and kind of touch on these topics.
Yeah, there are books of the Bible that explain this that have been removed. We're going to talk about that in our next episode. This is episode 4, so it'll be episode 5, probably episode 6 too, because it'll probably be a two-parter. But I'm going to show you scriptures today that explain that. It doesn't. We don't need these extra ones that are supposedly removed. We do have some explanation in the Bible.
And I think that we're in a time and age where you have such a vast amount of information that we have access to via social media, via your cell phone, via the internet. And so it's really changing the way that we understand, the origins of life and the spiritual reality that we know.
When you
currently.
say interdimensional beings, that they know that these are interdimensional beings, how do they know that?
Based on testimony would be...
Okay. How do they know that they're interdimensional? I mean, that's a good question. By the way, Joe Rogan is a master interviewer. I mean, he's just very calm, at ease, is able to pull out information from people. And also, he's like, yeah, but how do you know that? And that's a great question. How do you know that? And Anna Polina Luna seems to be a little bit representative. I guess I should say representative Anna Polina Luna. She seems a little unready for that question. It's a good question.
based on witnesses that have come forward. But what I can tell
So
you
the
is
witnesses just were told that they were
no,
interdimensional?
that they've seen things. And what I can tell you without getting into classified conversations is that there have been incidences that I believe where very credible people have reported that there have been movement outside of time and space.
That's very vague.
Okay, so what I can tell you without getting into classified stuff, that's what they always say when they're not unable to answer the question. Well, I can't tell you all of it because you'd be classified. But what I can tell you is it's definitely interdimensional. Okay, so I think what they're doing is they're looking at things that just appear to us to be unexplainable, and they're saying maybe we're talking about an interdimensional thing, something that goes beyond what we're able to comprehend in our three-dimensional plane. And that makes sense, right? I'm not saying that what her conclusion is wrong. I'm saying that she's a little bit more confident about her conclusion than what I think the facts probably lead to. But that's okay, because I actually agree with her. Because and she mentioned in that clip that this actually gets into spiritual conversations. And that's true. It is true that that this leads us to a question about angels and demons, because we know that there are other creatures, other kinds of beings besides just the ones that we have here on the earth, right? So when God created the earth in Genesis chapter 1, we're told that he gave the dominion of the earth to mankind, right? To the flowers and the plants and the trees and the animals and the livers, livers too, but the rivers and the lakes, all of those things were given to mankind. So that seems to be, sort of the realm that we're supposed to be, that we're over. But we also know that he created other beings, and he doesn't even tell us much about their creation. But we're told throughout the scripture, we see these beings pop up, and they're called sometimes angels, sometimes spirits, or pneumatos in Greek, which means breath. In Hebrews, it says that he makes his ministers a spirit to their flames of fire. So these beings minister to God. They're also seen in the New Testament as pneumatos, but evil pneumatos, evil spirits that show up and are possessing and inhabiting people's bodies. And there's an evil spirit that messes with Saul in the Old Testament and gives him a really bad mood, it seems like. There's a really bad one. So there's a lot. So this is kind of all throughout the scriptures, this spirit thing that seems, whatever they're able to do, it seems like they're mostly invisible unless they want to be seen. And they're definitely able to do things we can't quite grasp. But that's not to say that they're magic and there's no scientific explanation for demons. Demons aren't just like, oh, it's just magic. There's no explanation. No, I mean, God, I'm confident that God made a laws of physics that govern demons. It's just that these creatures are able to do things that we can't explain with the laws of physics that we know now, as far as we know them. But that's not to say that some interdimensional thing might be happening, and I think that's probably exactly what is happening at best. So let me give you a couple verses on demons to kind of show you what I'm talking about. I want to go first to 1 Corinthians 15. So let me pull this up here in my Logos Bible app and pull it up on the screen. 1 Corinthians 15, here we go. This is a text about the resurrection, which is, I think, worth spending a lot of time on. Of course, it's text of scripture. But what I really want to do is show you when it talks about bodies and how we must be changed into new bodies after when we're raised from the dead. So here it says, verse 39, all flesh is not the same, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds. So we're made differently. We talk about mammals and fish and birds and what's different about their bodies. Okay. And then he says this, there are celestial bodies or heavenly, like bodies that are made for heaven, and bodies terrestrial, bodies that are made for the earth. But the glory of the celestial is one and the glory of the terrestrial is another. So this verse, 1 Corinthians 15:40, does imply that there is a different kind of body that's been given to angels, and that they do have, in fact, something different about their actual bodily makeup that is celestial and makes them fit for a different, maybe you could say, dimension. And it may be that you know, if scientists had a million years, they could never find heaven, because it could be that we're talking about a dimensional thing here, and that might explain why we have spirits, that our spirits go to heaven, but our bodies can't. There would the argument against that would be, well, aren't there people who go to heaven? No, Paul said he was caught up in the spirit and saw heaven. John was caught up, but it could have been a vision that he was seeing. It may not be that he was physically there, or maybe God just broke the rules of the dimensions for him. But at any rate, generally speaking, it does seem like there could be a dimensional aspect at play here when we're talking about the angelic bodies. Now, throughout the scripture, again, angels and demons are used, the same terminology is used for them, only one is evil, one is good. And so we could get into this whole, but we just don't have the time. But the words used for angels and demons are interchangeable, except the demons are the evil ones and the angels are the good ones. You got evil pneumatos, evil spirits, good pneumatos that minister to God. And so this is where we get the conclusion that demons are angels who fell. The Bible talks many times about Satan and other angels who left their first estate, sinned against God, and left heaven. And so they are now evil beings, whatever these beings are that God created that are interdimensional, if we want to call them interdimensional. There are evil ones and good ones. And so with that being in mind, let me take you to Daniel chapter 10. This is probably the single most revealing scripture on angels and demons. It's quite fascinating. Let's look at it for a second. We'll just read the whole thing, but I'm going to pause on specific places especially. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar, and the thing was true, but the time appointed was long, and he understood the thing, and he had understanding of the vision. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. So he's praying about this thing. In the 24th day of the month, I was by the side of the great river, which is Hiddekel. Then I lifted up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, a man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. Now this is probably a description of Christ, a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ before he came as a baby. This is Daniel, this is Old Testament, before Jesus came as a baby and was born of Mary, all that kind of stuff. But that's probably it, because in Revelation, this sounds a lot like what Jesus looks like in the book of Revelation, chapter 1. Anyway, after he sees this, it says, I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision. But a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled and hid themselves. Therefore I was left alone, and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me, for my comeliness was turned into corruption. I retained no strength. That just means he fainted. I mean, he couldn't even keep his face together. It was just his comeliness he just in terror fell on the ground. Yet I heard the voice of his words, and when I heard the voice of his words, then was I in a deep sleep. He fainted on my face, and my face toward the ground. And then it says, verse 10. This is where it starts getting interesting concerning the angels. And behold, a hand touched me, and set me on my knees and upon the palms of my hand. And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright. So this is an angel that comes, puts his hand on Daniel's shoulder, and sets him up. For unto thee am I now sent. And when he had spoken this word unto me, I stood trembling. Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand and to chasten thyself before thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. So here's an angel who came to help Daniel since when he started praying. But for 21 days, he was withheld by a demon that he calls the Prince of Persia. This tells us that there is actual war between these, let's call them interdimensional beings that God created, if we're going to call them that. We don't know that. But there's an actual war between them. And he was captured in the war and held captive for 21 days. There are princes of them. They have a hierarchy. They have a whole structure. It's a whole thing, guys. We don't know much about it because the Bible doesn't want to tell us too much about it. I think the reason for that is because the Bible says we will judge angels, and I think we have to be impartial judges later. So that's why we're not told much. I don't know, but let's just say that that's the case. But at any rate, there's a whole thing going on here, guys, that we don't know about. Angels and demons fighting and hierarchies and structure and battles and all this stuff is interesting. He was held up for 21 days. And then it says, but lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. So here's a hierarchical structure among the angels. Michael, an angel, came and helped him get out of captivity among the demons. And I remained there with the kings of Persia, meaning that for those 21 days until he came. Now I am come to make thee understand what shall befall thy people in the latter days, for yet the vision is for many days. And when he had spoken such words to me, I set my face toward the ground and became dumb. He's like, I can't even understand this. This is blowing my mind, what you're telling me right now. And behold, one like the similitude of the sons of men touched my lips. So now comes another angel who looks like a person. Probably the first angel was something like a cherub and quite scary, with 4 faces and stuff like that. Cherub or a seraphim or something like that. And so after he talks to this one, another one comes, and this one looks like a person, which is interesting that there's different looks to angels. But this one looks a lot more like a human. And he touched his lips, and then I opened my mouth and spake and said unto him that stood before me. So he gives him strength to his lips just by touching him. That's an interesting ability that angels have. O my Lord, by the vision my sorrows are turned upon me. I have retained no strength. He's just scared. He's scared to death. For how can the servant of my Lord talk with this my Lord? For as for me, straightway there remained no strength in me, neither is there breath left in me. Then there came again and touched me one like the appearance of a man. Another guy comes. He's like, you're scary to look at, dude. And what you're telling me is really freaking me out. So another guy who looks like a man, who's an angel, who has the appearance of a man. He's kind of similar to a man in the way he looks, instead of looking all crazy like a lot of the angels do. And he comes and strengthens him again. And said, O man, greatly beloved, fear not, peace be unto thee, be strong, yea, be strong. And when he had spoken unto me, I was strengthened, and said, Let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me. Then he said, Knowest thou wherefore I am come unto thee? And now I will return to fight with the prince of Persia, again, that demon that had held him captive. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. Meaning there's more wars to come. There's more things happening. What are we looking at here? Well, we're looking at something that pulls back the veil a little bit into the world of angels and demons. They are fighting. There's wars. They're capturing each other. And they are influencing. The Persia at the time is the world empire, and Grecia is going to be the next world empire. So their wars are influencing politics and reality on Earth. So this is like mind-blowing real stuff, and a good explanation for all of these beings that are going around. We never see them, and we have no evidence in generally speaking, we don't have a lot of evidence for their existence, even though they're living and there's lots of them, whole battles going on, is because they could very well be interdimensional beings. And that explains not only the interdimensional, not only it doesn't explain angels and demons. It also explains sightings of aliens, because there is such a thing as an alien, meaning an extraterrestrial, a being that's not from this earth or made for this earth. And they're called angels and demons. And they are, in fact, not made for the planet Earth. So if you want to call them aliens, that's probably a good thing to call them. And I think actually that is the explanation for many alien sightings. We're talking about demons. And so on that, I actually agree with Representative Anna Paulina Luna. We'll talk next time about how I very much disagree with her about the Book of Enoch. I think she's very wrong about the Book of Enoch. But for that, you'll have to wait till next time. I'll see you next week on Point of View Scriptura.
We're about news, commentary, conversations, truth, liberty, and God. We stand for American values and our flag. We believe that the Constitution is a document that fortifies rights already given to us by our Creator. We will not apologize for our love of God and country, ever. We are Right America Media.